Yes, Martin Popoff here. Welcome back to another episode of The Contrarians. This is the show where we will pick the wrong album guaranteed every time. Yes, the premise of this show is that there's three of us, myself, Marco, and Nick. We usually get together and do a show where the idea is one of us believes in our heart of hearts that this is the greatest album by this band, but it has to be a contrarian choice. So we've got one guy arguing for that contrarian choice, and then we've got a guy basically sobering him up, telling him why he's wrong. This is actually the best album by this band. But one thing we wanted to do, we're coming up with ideas to actually get more shows out, and one of them. Nick came up with this. I thought it was a good idea. You're going to see shows from these guys as well. But we thought we'd do solo shows so we didn't have to schedule and we can get right to it. And we can basically argue both sides at the same time. And essentially one guy will do the show. We're still going to see, the good quality of editing and putting in pictures and things that Marco and Nick get up to. So I love that they do that. But this is my first shot at a solo show. So I'm going to pick a contrarian choice by this band. And then I'm going to tell you what the regular choice is for this band, that I see out there a lot and argue why, there are pros and cons of both. Obviously, in the first case, I will argue why I love this album the most by this band. Let's get to it. It is by this band. I'm going to do a little show and tell here to start out with, because I got this really cool promo thing that I've owned for a lot of years that I'm going to show you. So it is this band here. One of my favorite bands of all time. ZZ Top, I've often called them my favorite band of all time. I always kind of include in there the AC/DC, Gillan, but I love ZZ Top a lot. And one reason I love ZZ Top a lot is they went through various phases through their career, but I really like some of the later albums. I'll talk about that in a bit. Let's just finish off our show and tell here. So this is also in this promo box that I got. Here's the actual box that it came in, which is kind of cool. There it is, all water damaged or whatever, and then it had what's the right way up. So this is a ZZ Top promo kit. Put that up there. There's instructions for using your ZZ Top kit. Hanging up the letters if you have a store, good old 70s store you want to put this stuff in. There's a little sticker for Tejas. So this came out the time of Tejas. There's a couple of album flats for Tejas. Another one there, and then it came with flats without records in it for all the albums. So you've got all of these in there as well. What is this? So this is a big Tejas poster it came with sticky on the back. You're supposed to peel that off and probably put that in the window of your groovy 70s record store, right? And what is this one? So this is an even bigger Tejas poster. There you go. And then this nice groovy with a hole in it at the top. It's all glossy, two-sided Tejas store hanger thingy. And that is all the bits and pieces. So before I tell you what my choice is, so just a little history on ZZ Top. They're that little old band from Texas. I worked on the movie, Banger Films movie. That was so much fun. We did a documentary of ZZ Top, but basically a band that came out of the psych, British post-British blues boom era in Texas, Houston, Texas, Dallas, Texas, kind of a little all over the place. Came out of the Moving Sidewalks, Billy Gibbons, but then they came out on London Records with ZZ Top's, what do they call it? ZZ Top's first album, then Rio Grande Mud, and then Tres Hombres, and they were well on their way. Hard gigging band, doing great. A power trio: Frank Beard on drums, Dusty Hill on bass, Billy Gibbons, actually Dusty Hill on bass and vocals, Billy Gibbons on bass and vocals. So yeah, they're kind of a hard rocking, boogie rocking band from the 70s. A lot of big hits. You love them, I love them, everybody loves them. Tush, ZZ, Lagrange were the big early hits. Then they had Tejas and DeGueo. They had a period there where they kind of went away and just rested and cleaned up and all that kind of stuff. But they came back with kind of a different sound for El Loco, and then just blew the doors off success-wise with Eliminator, which went diamond. Unfortunately, I've got this big, beautiful diamond framed award that I wanted to bring and show down, but it was too hard to get down. But they had this massive, massive hit with Eliminator. Obviously, they were one of the big, big MTV bands with the fuzzy guitars and the spinning guitars and the beards and the hats and the sunglasses, cheap sunglasses, DeGueo, right? So this is a band that had a massive second life in the MTV era. The next one, Afterburner, was huge as well, went 5 times platinum. Recycler went platinum. And then, there was the slow decline. But one thing, like I say, that I love about this band, I loved Antenna, and I supremely argue often. I almost went with this choice, but it all would be too radical a contrarian choice. I almost went with Recycler as my favorite ZZ Top album, 1997. It's so heavy and so cool and groovy. But one of the well-kept secrets about that album, I guess it's not much of a secret anymore because I've been blabbing it a lot, but Frank Beard is not the drummer on it, but the drumming is amazing. I love Recycler, and I love Mescalero. And the last one, La Futura, little disappointed. It's a little short. The songs aren't nearly as good as Mescalero, but it's very much sounds like Mescalero. But yeah, 2 of my favorite ZZ Top albums of all time are Mescalero and Rhythmine, and I love Antenna. So yeah, I love everything these guys have done, all the eras, and they made a lot of changes along the way. So yeah, massive, massive band, essentially considered a Houston-based band, biggest band ever to come out of Texas, just a massive, massive band with all that early success in sort of 83 through to about 86, I suppose. And then constantly gigging. They're getting older. There's definitely some limitations to what they're able to do in later years. But they kept working hard. But yeah, so the band known for the beards more than anything, right? Except Frank Beard, the drummer who doesn't have the beard, right? So yeah, really, really cool, beloved band. And are they a Southern rock band? That's something we always debate. Can you be a Southern rock band from Texas? But they certainly sound like a Southern rock band. They're essentially a hard rock / a little bit heavy metal band mixed with boogie rock, blues, just good riffing, good entertaining, sexual double entendres in the lyrics and funny lyrics, and just a humorous band. So there's ZZ Top for you in a nutshell. So yeah, as I say, Contrarians, my contrarian choice with this band, it's always been a contrarian choice for a favorite album of theirs. People are always surprised when I pick this, is Tejas, 1976. I've often said that we get the big gatefold thing going on with it, right? It's a triple gatefold, so there's all the guys, Dusty, Frank in the middle. I don't know which is left or right for you, but Billy and Dusty, and then Frank in the middle. But great album. I've often said that had this record been all of a studio album, it might have turned out to be my favorite ZZ Top album of all time, because the studio side of this album is my favorite side of ZZ Top of all time, with Nasty Dogs and Funky Kings, Blue Jean Blues, Balinese, Mexican Blackbird. Heard it on the X, super cool heavy metal tune, and one of my favorites. And one thing I love about that song is it's got the dual Dusty and Billy vocals, which I always love. I think Dusty, he kind of rused that one of his great callings was not really realized in life, and that's to be more of a singer and more of a full-time singer. Elvis is his hero. So I love Dusty's voice, but I love Billy's as well. And I always liken them a little bit to Randy Bachman and what's his name, Fred Turner, in that Fred's got the aggressive hollering voice, and he looks a bit like Dusty, and then Randy is the the guitarist mastermind of the band, the other vocalist, and he definitely has a much softer vocal, but Billy can do that and the other stuff as well. Billy's probably even better and cooler vocalist than Dusty, but I just love both of them. They're two of my top vocalists. So there you go. But why do I love Tejas so much? I really like the fact that it's got this whole interesting feathery drum sound, and Frank's discovered this thing where he's doing all this kind of point counterpoint stuff back and forth between snare and hi-hat a lot on the album. And it's got this very kind of soft and sympathetic and pioneering production quality to it. Whereas previously, all of the previous albums are essentially going for a no-nonsense hard rock sound. Not very well produced, I might add, all the previous albums. They're a little bit kind of mid-rangey and humorless, right? Lacking in super highs and super lows. But this album is a better production, but it's not trying to be a heavy production. That's what's kind of interesting about it. There are some fairly heavy songs on here. Probably the heaviest, it's not very heavy at all. That's the other thing. It's quite weird for me loving this. I love Asleep in the Desert, which is a soft, balladic instrumental. I remember when I was, playing guitar a fair bit in the, trying to learn guitar, whatever, in the 80s. I remember learning that whole song and the solo and stuff. Loved playing that. But it's got some kind of country western sort of stuff on it that's really charming. Like She's a Heartbreaker, It's Only Love. $10 Man is one of these where there's this kind of weird point counterpoint. See, $10 Man is almost like the this notched back version of Heard It on the X. But I love Arrested for Driving While Blind. See, that's a song that is written heavy, but it's not recorded particularly heavy. So on the previous albums, that would have had a whole different feel. Enjoy Getting It On is really cool too, with that sort of jazzy funkiness. Snappy Khaki is kind of the same thing. So there's this neat direction going on here. That's a weird direction to go with the pioneering production sound. So I just think it holds together as a creatively daring album after everything they had done before. And it's got this Frank doing this weird, interesting new drumming, and the odd production, and the idea that, okay, we're going to actually notch back from the hard rock and heavy metal, the pioneering, kind of heaviness that, it's crazy calling ZZ Top heavy metal, obviously, because even they're not even on the heavy side of the heaviest bands of the 70s, but you get what I mean, right? But yeah, just this beautiful sort of, I'm looking at this. It's interesting. Bill Ham is listed as producer, but obviously engineer Terry Manning and Larry Nix. So Larry Nix is a storied Southern guy, and Terry Manning is a legendary, engineer producer guy. So they're the guys doing the heavy lifting on this, probably, honestly, along with Billy, because Billy, always had his hands in a lot of stuff. But yeah, just love everything about the whole conceptual feel of this. It sounds exactly like this album cover. So there you go. That is my choice for favorite ZZ Top album. Now, and I've always pretty much stuck with that, except when, like I say, I'm feeling belligerent and want to turn people on to Rhythmine, because I picked that. Now, what is the actual, non-contrarian sober choice for greatest ZZ Top album? It's funny. I had a little chat with Marco before, and he came up with, he thought of Eliminator immediately, and I had to feel like I had to correct him on that, because I never hear anybody say Eliminator. Here's the collector's edition of Eliminator, the CD, right? Obviously it's the massive seller, and they still, always they had to play songs off that, and they did. I had a band in the 80s, and we played Bad Girl, and I got the six, the two heaviest songs off that record. Not the big hits, but they were heavy. That's why we loved them. But good album, very simple and rudimentary, and obviously this new shocking kind of like quote unquote dance metal sound. But I never hear from like deep ZZ Top fans that they will pick that as their favorite ZZ Top album. The one that always wins is this one. This is the non-contrarian choice of the greatest ZZ Top album. And as Marco always does a good job with the whole idea, there's the gatefold of it, with the food. Yeah, it's funny. I don't want to even crack this open too far because this is the flat without a record that comes in that promo kit and it hasn't ever been opened. But so as Marco always does, I wanted to give you a few stats of why this is the favorite. I mean, number one reason it's the favorite is a whole bunch of really smart buddies of mine, and every time I always see it, and people who know ZZ Top well will always pick this album. 1973, it was a big album. But here's a funny thing, um, it's only certified as gold. Now, in the States, RIAA certified as gold. Now, this is an example. I've always thought, it'd be neat to do some research into these things, but this is one of the clearest. That's funny. Oh, no, it does say 1973. I thought it said 72. One of the funny things, we always have this debate about albums that obviously have sold way more, but they're certified low for various nefarious record company reasons. And London is, everybody I've ever interviewed in rock always complains about London. And I have a feeling this is one of those cases where, possibly the record label doesn't want to let on to how much things have sold, or they're just lazy, or even management never went back and got them, or Billy doesn't care, or whatever. So there's various reasons why people don't go back and get their certifications certified higher. And this is such a perfect example of an album that I suspect has sold way more than gold in the States. Gold is 500,000. Platinum is 1 million. I swear this must have sold way over 1 million copies. I imagine this is double platinum in reality, in real life, because it does have. So it has one of the band's biggest songs of all time, and that's LaGrange, which is that boogie shuffle kind of thing with the ha 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 and all that. Tush is obviously a massive song of theirs, but so is Give Me All Your Lovin' and Sharp Dressed Man and things later on, right? But yeah, so the other stat I want to cite, which Marco is always very good at doing this, the other reason this album, a clue that it is the correct sober choice, is that looking up the most played songs in ZZ Top sets throughout history, LaGrange is the #1 most played song by ZZ Top of all time. Number 3 is off of this album, and that's Jesus Just Left Chicago. And number 4 is Waiting for the Bus. And we know how those two songs blend into each other, and that's how they do them live as well. Number 2, I don't have it down here, but I imagine it's Tush, right? But that's crazy. So in ZZ Top shows throughout the 50 years they've been together, 51 years, 52 years maybe, at this point, it's crazy that they have the #1, the number 3, the number 4, and number 18, which is still pretty high, is Beer Drinkers and Hellraisers, which I named my Motorhead book after, because Motorhead actually covered them as well, and I thought it was a cool title. So I have a Motorhead book called that, Beer Drinkers and Hellraisers. Good heavy metal song, and that's another one with the dual Dusty and Billy vocals, which I really love. And then Precious and Grace, which is a really cool atmospheric, prog metal song almost, is on this album as well. So Precious and Grace. Elsewhere you have Master of Sparks, which is another one just like that. I always put Master of Sparks, Nasty Dogs, and Funky Kings, I think that's how you say it, and Precious and Grace as this trilogy of these cool, dark, moody, heavy ZZ Top songs that really took them to another place. I love that style that they did. But it's got Hot Blue and Righteous I'm not crazy about. So I mean, here's also where, in the spirit of the show, I tell you why I did not pick this as my favorite ZZ Top album. I'm not crazy about Waiting for the Bus. It's okay, but it's slow blues. Hot Blue and Righteous is a blues ballad, so I'm not crazy about that. Actually, no, sorry. Jesus Just Left Chicago is the slow blues part. Waiting for the Bus, I actually do like quite a bit. That's kind of like the funky, heavy, mid-paced riff thing. But yeah, so that's a blues ballad and a blues on that side. I love Master of Sparks, one of my favorite ZZ Top songs of all time. Love Beer Drinkers, really like Waiting for the Bus. Move Me On Down the Line is one of their interesting homages to the Rolling Stones. I love when they did that kind of thing. What the heck? Francine's the other one that's very Stonesy, right? And I love Precious and Grace, but LaGrange, I could take it or leave it. It's kind of dull. Have You Heard is kind of like a gospel blues, so I'm not crazy about that one. Chic is really cool. That's a cool, funny funky song. So, you know, if I was to be perfectly honest with you, this is always in my top three. But, you know, maybe top four, because I really like Degueo a lot as well. So my favorites are Tejas. Pretty much, I always cite that first. And then second, I'm you know, it's a toss up between Rhythmine 1997 and this one. And then Degueo would be really close for me. So there you have it. That is it. What else do we do in these shows? Because it's usually the two of us. We always kind of come up with, or no, I think the grade is something we leave for our worst album show. So we're not going to do a grade on this one. But there you go. My favorite, Tejas. The sober favorite, Tres Hombres. Leave us some comments. I'd love to hear what you guys think. It's really cool seeing the poll results on this. Tell me where I'm totally wrong or right on this. But I went for creativity, and I went for bravery in maybe doing a record that perhaps is a little bit of commercial suicide after you know, the good embracing by many fans, tens of thousands of fans, when they would go on tour and selling these records, of what they had been doing so far, which frankly across those 4 albums is all pretty similar. So this was a little bit of a weird album. So there you go. That is my first solo show of the Contrarians. I think there will be more, and I am telling Marco and Nick, you guys better do some solo shows as well. I've seen Nick has already done a feedback on feedback. That's really cool on the Metallica. I'm going to do a few of those as well. So we will sign off for now, and yeah, please leave us some comments. One other thing. You know, I write a lot of heavy metal books, hard rock books, classic rock books. You can go to martinpopoff.com for everything that's available. There's 90 titles. I'd say 40 of them, 50 of them are in print still. So that's all available. I sign them, send them out from my office here. PayPal buttons for everything. That's it. Signing off for the Contrarians. Go play some ZZ Top.